Welcome to Supply Chain Talks. My name is Kristian Mortensen. I'm a Senior Director, Global Partnerships and Alliances at project44, and today I'm also your host for Supply Chain Talks. project44 has hand-curated a strong partner network to extend and enable the best possible customer experience. During 2021, we welcome you to our partner series, Supply Chain Talks. These conversations touch on current developments in global supply chains and the world of logistics. And today, we happily welcome Dr. Jochen to Supply Chain Talks. Jochen is Principal and Head of Supply Chain Visibility and Collaboration at Camelot Management Consulting. Jochen, I am positively pleased to have you join.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited about joining today. For us at Camelot, the partnership with project44 helps us in providing the best available solutions to our clients.
Thank you, Jochen. And Jochen, you have a very consistent employment record, 12 years in Bayer and now 13 years in Camelot. Very impressive in a time where people change jobs every few years. What's your secret for being so energetic and enthusiastic?
It is not really a secret. My motivation comes from building and learning. Building teams, developing topics, continuously learning further and further aspects and discovering the potential of the technological progress. In these 2.5 decades of my professional career, technology has fundamentally changed from the limit what is possible to an enabler challenging us to exploit the enormous options. So I experience change as continuous and always seek a way to influence its direction in my projects and with my team. Besides, with more than 50 projects in my career so far, and not a single one being like the other, there's no need to seek for any new challenges. They are always there.
That's for sure. Jochen, the Camelot name is very well known for a historian buff like me from when JFK was US president and the legendary King Arthur stories. And the name Camelot Management Consultant might be less known in the wider public than the very well-known brands you work with. Can you share who and what Camelot is?
Briefly, Camelot celebrates its 25th anniversary this year. We are a mid-sized consultancy headquartered in Mannheim, Germany, with offices around the globe. We focus on value chains and provide a comprehensive consulting approach ranging from strategy to organization, process to applications and technologies. We have a particularly strong footprint in pharmaceutical and chemical industry. The name Camelot indeed is connected to the artist saga. So the 3 founders have developed our approach of consulting when they met in the Hotel Ritter, which is night in English in Heidelberg. And the spirit of closely working together in teams and with our clients and partners is really essential, a part of our culture.
Great, thank you, Jochen. Supply chains leaders that you and your colleagues work with, they cannot really avoid business uncertainty, but they can build resilient supply chains that drive profitability and growth in a disruptive reality. How do you work with companies in this area?
There's not a single answer to this. And of course, there are individual answers for our individual clients. But I would group the necessary changes in 3 categories. First, the organization. Build a risk management mindset, understand internal and external risks and how to continuously monitor them. Use digital twins to understand potential impacts. Update the decision processes to data-based and automated. And this affects much more the way of working than only being process and technology. So this is why organization must come first. Second category is processes, of course. And there it is important to understand planning and execution processes and how they can integrate better to adapt to a permanent change, be more agile and become robust at the same time. Camelot is a leader in demand-driven supply chain management which is part of the answer, how to improve your processes. And third is technologies. Connecting to all data sources, linking data to information along the complete supply chain, create visibility, automate decisions, and integrate control on all aspects of the supply chain. Combining these points from all these three categories is essential for long-term success. And even if you start very small by addressing one specific improvement potential, it is essential to move forward to include the complete supply chain.
Jochen, if I'm not wrong, then you conduct supply chain diagnostics, sort of a systematic approach to scan companies' supply chains and to identify improvement opportunities in the end-to-end supply chain. What are the typical problems that you identify?
Well, again, there's no simple answer, but the range of findings is very large, and there are some typical areas for improvement potential. I would like to point out one phenomenon which we discover quite often. It is operational staff operating in a mode of firefighting. One reason is that often the key positions are assigned to one singular expert. These experts typically have an astonishing knowledge, but are highly loaded with their operational tasks, quite often overloaded, and at the same time, not having a real backup. It is obvious that this is quite a risk. And what is missing there is the availability and accessibility of data across all collaborations. Today, the information flow along supply chains is not only interrupted by organizational silos, but by the many companies involved in such a supply chain. If only information would be shared already during the planning stage and throughout all execution, decisions would be much easier and there would be many more options to choose from for supply chain operations. Achieving an agile, responsive, and resilient supply chain today is a question of sharing and using data. Technology provides amazing approaches to support the operational business. To give an example, artificial intelligence detecting external risks like weather, strikes, resource shortages from commonly available data and relating it to standard routes which are used for a specific supply chain. Planning alternatives could already be started before an actual transport is affected. To make it very specific, today we have a strike on the railway in Germany, and it affects quite a large part of some supply chains which depend on this mode of operations. And as soon as the first messages about the strikes are out, you could react and plan different transport modes, create some buffers and so on. So that is something which goes beyond just knowing, okay, my transport is delayed. Yeah, so it changes the operational business. And again, the firefighting would be different. Yeah, not reacting to something being already late, but having the information as soon as possible and from many, many different sources, and then knowing how to react. And of course, if we talk about technologies in this regard, also we should mention Internet of Things. So that's a huge wealth of data being available in addition to the old transactional data. And it allows real-time monitoring much, much more today. So these technologies are part of what we observe. How far are they used already, and how far can they answer what we observe in the firefighting in the end?
Once you then identified the problems, what are the typical obstacles in actually implementing the solution and finally in achieving the results?
Well, of course, there's the usual suspects, yeah, like budget, willingness to change, management support, lack of resources. But along these, we should name a rather new challenge, the willingness to share data. Many companies are still reluctant to share data with their partners, to establish trust in a relationship, which allows to share and to be sure that data is still used only by authorized personnel and data integrity is always maintained. So data security and establishing larger structures for managing accessibility is a key challenge today. So integration, standards, and security are the key words there. In general, there are three aspects which are essential for delivering any project and its results. An integrated view on the complete supply chain, the organizational change to involve the people and change the way of working, not only the tools, not only the technology, and of course, managing risks and opportunities and benefits.
Great. Jochen, large, let's say multinational companies often are perhaps a collection of different companies joined together through M&A activities. And then having all these factories and brand under one corporate brand does not actually immediately mean that they have the same procurement traditions, the same IT systems, and the same supply chain control. From your experience, how does this impact, say, the ability to streamline processes and projects and to create a resilient supply chain?
Well, there are two patterns to be observed in these transitions. A, we have a strong governance, often harmonizing to the previous standard without utilizing the strengths of the new parts of the organization. And B, a parallel and rather independent existence, hardly leveraging the synergies. In reality, we usually find a mixture of these two extremes. But with the answer to the previous question, it is obvious how to start adapting the supply chain. Once you have managed to integrate and share with outside partners, it will be an easy first step to be applied also within your changing or internal organization. So start with being transparent. This will give you the time to learn the strengths of all parties forming the changed company and to harmonize while maintaining all strengths. So the transparency already establishes collaboration and trust, which really helps you to accept further changes and to participate in developing the common standard with all sides involved.
Let's say towards the sort of end, at least second half of our conversation, let's touch on end-to-end real-time visibility in Europe. Do you see companies that are implementing this type of capabilities? And what are the trends that you see?
Well, of course, there are many companies which have this on top of their supply chain agendas, have made their first implementations already, or are planning to do so. Companies closer to consumer business, like retailers or fast-moving consumer goods, are further ahead in this, whilst others are still evaluating the benefits. The focus is on adding visibility where currently a lack of information limits the performance of the supply chain. And there are excellent solutions on the market. But I still see two main challenges for most companies. First, a systematic benefit-driven approach, overcoming the early adoptions driven by pure fascination of technology. And second, an integrated point of view with visibility over this complete supply chain. To illustrate the last point, we may have a look at pharmaceutical industry. They have challenges in the sourcing as well as in the distribution networks. They have implemented serialization and are stepping up to aggregation data, and they need to integrate temperature management into their quality processes. But the unified structure, which integrates all this on a common backbone, is not on the agenda yet for most of the companies. But we also find some inspiring examples of some pioneers.
Jochen, in many companies, a shipment, regardless of transportation mode, ocean, air, road, rail, all the way from containers to pallets and parcel, is something we don't really think about until a factory runs out of raw materials and production stops for a full day, or a key account is missing 3 shipments in the same month. Shipments typically go into a big black hole until something is missing or someone complains. Have you seen this kind of problems, and how do companies want to solve them?
Well, this is still the normal situation in many businesses. B2B is lagging behind compared to B2C. The first step towards a solution has been that logistics services provided status data as a differentiator for their services, quite often delivered with high manual effort. For providing transparency about deliveries to customers, this may already be a change in customer experience. The second step is the availability of data services independent of the logistics services, for which we see solutions available today. This may include inbound goods, availability of goods from suppliers, scheduling goods received operations, etc. Of course, project44 must be named here. Yeah. And this will develop towards a strongly supply chain centric view until we find at the final stage of the evolution an integrated control tower with all relevant information along the supply chain, which are linked with all the complexity of supply chain network, and providing automated decisions or decision support on operational as well as on tactical level.
Thank you, Jochen, for really being a great partner to project44 and also for joining us today for Supply Chain Talks. I'm truly confident that you and me and project44 and Camelot will soon have a possibility to meet face to face.
Thank you for having me. And I'm really looking forward to meeting each other soon.
Thank you, Jochen.